chat rolls in. Stories fly and the night begins. Some talk steak, some talk life. Some just trying to get it right. Names on the screen, but it feels real close. Laughing easy like we're all on the porch. Different roads, but we meet right here. Pull up a chair, we're already there. Target prime rib, come on in. Riblets gather, let the talk begin. Laugh a little, say what it is. Ain't no pressure here in this. Carnivore, keto, however you roll. We're just talking live and feeding the soul. Ain't about perfect, just where you're at. We're all hanging out, chewing the fat. Come on back, chewing the fat.
Hey, fellow Riblets, it's me, Tom from Target Prime Rib. Don't worry, I did see DC. He came in, but then for some reason he was kicked out. So hopefully, here he is now. So hopefully we got fixed. Hey, DC, how you doing? It's
Good,
good
mate.
to see you. So I'm guessing you saw my introduction song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I saw a little bit of it. It was,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I just
problem
want
with
to
the
say hello to
internet
some people that took the time to come out and say hello to us. So the first person that was here is Terry Girl, Terry Sue. And then we have Just Jerry is in the chats. And of course we got Sandy Blythe. Hey Sandy, how you doing? And then let me just keep on going. And we got Grandma's Crochet Corner. I really shouldn't say old fashioned because there's nothing old fashioned about Grandma. And then, I kind of scrolled up a little too fast. That's what happens when you get older. Okay, and then we got the next person would be Brian Airy. Hey, Brian, how you doing? I saw you on with Jerry on her thing today. Pretty cool. And we got on your channel, we got D. Lee is here. Hey, D. Lee. We got Scooby the dog. Ellen is also here. Again, on your channel, we got Federal Grandma. And we got Lizzie here. And we have, of course, Nightbot, but Nightbot, just ignore him. And then we have Bacon Runner.
Yeah.
We got a lot of people here, don't we? And then we have,
Yeah, it's good.
and then we got some guy DC Rebuilding. I have no idea who that is. And then we have, and then that's it. And then on Instagram, we don't have anybody yet. All right. So, and Bacon Runner is here now too. So we got a lot of people here. We already have 23 people in the chats. So we hadn't even started talking yet, and already we have that many people. So that's pretty impressive. So how are things going with you, DC?
Yeah, good. I'm very good, actually. Doing well.
Good.
Yeah. How about you? How's everything going?
Yeah, pretty good. Not too bad. I have my bouts of I get depressed a lot, so I had a little bit of depression yesterday, but it was many things that were going on in my head. It wasn't just one particular thing. So I'm good now. I got plenty of sleep. Ate a pretty good meal. Ate a couple good meals today, so can't complain. Yeah, but
Well, that's good.
so basically, how this works is, as you can tell, we did the first two parts. We saw the introduction, and then we also saw the we also said hello to the people in the chats. Which one more to add. North Dakota Carnivore is here. Lance. I don't know if you know who Lance is, but he is here. So there's going to be a few people. So if you're not subscribed to DC, obviously if you're on his channel right now, obviously you are. But if you're not subscribed to DC, make sure to go and subscribe to him. you know. And if anybody wants to have their channel subscribed to, just put in prime rib, all one word, all lowercase, and your channel is going to come up onto into the chats, so people can subscribe to you if you feel that you want to get some love yourself.
Oh, that's good. I'm good. Yeah.
So that's this is pretty cool. So are you in England right now or no? Like, are you part of,
No,
are you in
I'm in Australia.
you're in Australia? Okay. No, I didn't know if you were at the British meetup or not, so I wasn't sure about that.
No.
So
no.
okay.
No.
Very cool. So I heard through the grapevine. I'm sorry I did not know about this. It's not that I don't watch you. It's just our time frames are just totally different. And
Yeah.
I know one
Mm.
time I was in their chats, but it was like just one of those things with work and stuff like that. But I heard that you have a pet duck named Louie or Lewis.
Louis. Yeah.
Louie. Okay.
Yeah, little duckling.
That's cool.
But he's doing better.
Is he still a baby duck, or has he grown since you
Yeah, he's
got
still better. He has grown. He's gotten quite big. When I first found him, he was only 40, well, about 35 grams. Now he's almost a kilo now, so he's gotten quite big.
Wow.
But he's still very fluffy and fat and starting to get some feathers, so he looks a bit miserable at the moment.
That is cool. That is cool. That's cool. What kind of duck is he? Like what breed? Do you know?
He's a Muscovy.
Oh, so Rick's favorite duck. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Target prime rib. Don't tell Rick. No, I won't. We'll keep Louie protected from Rick.
Well, he's a real carnivore duck too. Actually, he loves his mealworms and bugs and stuff like that. So he eats a little bit of
Oh, that's
grass every
cool.
now and then, but most of
That's
it's
cool.
anything that
Let me
moves.
actually
He tried to eat a
switch.
mouse. He tried to eat a mouse yesterday, but he it's a little bit too big for him. So that was funny.
All right. So we also have here on Instagram, we have Fitness Beyond Time, which I believe is Mark Enos. But he's on the Instagram page. He's not over here at YouTube. So hello, Mark.
Okay.
How you doing? All right. So without further ado, of course, we can't forget Erin Booby Goats. She's also here along with us,
Oh,
and so is
Aaron,
Yellow
yeah.
Rose and GN Vanillis. That he's part of your channel. Oh, you know, it looks familiar. That's not Graham, is it? Might be Graham.
Which one?
If it's Graham, hello,
I can't
Graham.
see
How
the
you
chat.
doing? You can't see the chat?
Can't see his. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks kind of like him. Let me see if I can put it up
It's
on
got
the thing.
like,
Oh yeah, it's definitely
transforming
Graham.
on the
That's
end,
Graham.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, Graham, it's good seeing you.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I can see that one. He's got a
Yeah.
different name this time. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, well, you know how they do
That's
that.
my
People
instinct.
love to change their names.
Yeah,
You know, it keeps us on our feet. You know.
that's true.
All right. So without further ado, we'll start this off like I always do with you telling your story. Don't rush. You know, take your time. There's no rush. You know, we're not in a race unless you are in a race. But you know,
No,
I
that's
always set for a couple hours, but that doesn't mean you have to take a couple hours. I just want to give you that ability to take, you know, to tell your story without feeling like you have to be in a relay race. And
okay.
you know, and just, you know, because I know you have a good story. You know, I mean, just like most of us do, we all have kind of good stories. We just don't know necessarily how to tell it or what part we feel is
Yeah.
important. I think all of it is important. So, you know, just from the beginning to where you're at now. We'll talk about a lot of things. And people, while we're doing this, please put the questions into the chats. And as always, I will save it. And then whoever you're asking the question to, hopefully to DC, we will answer the questions accordingly. But remember, we are not doctors, nor are we pharmacists or anything like that. We are just people that have been experiencing this way of life, and we know what we know. That's basically it. DC probably knows more than I do, but I never claim to know a lot. So, DC, without further ado, why don't we give the mic to you?
Okay. Well, mine is a pretty long story, but I'll condense it down as best I can. When my story started when I was living back in Japan, and I'd been living there for about 10 years. And in 2011, we were living in near Sendai, and between Sendai and the coast of Japan, like the Pacific coast. And that's where we got hit by a 9.1 magnitude earthquake that lasted 6.5 minutes, and then we got hit by a tsunami. Then we spent the rest of that year sort of like, we went obviously surviving that and cleaning up and trying to rebuild our lives. And we spent several months trying to find food and water and that sort of thing. And that raised a lot of problems. Like my family in Australia, they kept telling me to go home to Australia and so on, which I wasn't going to do because I was just rebuilding my life there. I'd been there for 10 years, so my whole life was in Japan. And so when we rebuilt our house and started getting my business back together, and my wife had gone back to work, I decided to come and visit my family in Australia that Christmas in 2011. But while I was going through that whole year rebuilding, I was having a lot of health issues. I had night sweats and had a lot of kidney pain, had a lot of pain in my abdomen, and I was just getting sick all the time. I had colds and flus all the time. It's just a constant sort of rotation. So I was in a bad way, but I didn't really have time to get it seen to in Japan because I was too busy trying to, like carrying 40 liters of water, to help my family at the time every morning for, like a 5-kilometer walk. And, these were things we had to do. And so while I was in Australia for Christmas, I thought, well, I'll get a checkup while I'm here, because I was sick as soon as I got off the plane anyway. So I went to the doctor, and they decided to do a blood test and so on. And they were pretty quick, actually. The next day, they sent me to I went back to get my bloods checked and so on. And he said, there's a problem with your blood, so we're going to do some x-rays. And he felt around my abdomen a bit, and he said, look, I don't think you should go back to Japan until you get this fixed. I was traveling alone at the time because my wife still had to work. So I had to tell her that, look, I'm not sure. I might be a bit sicker than I thought, and I might have to stay here for a little while. And so she decided to come out, and in between that time, over Christmas, I had these x-rays and an ultrasound done on my abdomen. And I mean, this took a couple of weeks. Then they sent it to a specialist hospital here in Brisbane, Australia. And the day my wife arrived in Australia, the hospital called me and said, look, we'd really like for you to come into the hospital and get this seen to. And I said, well, we couldn't go in that night because we were actually staying at my dad's place. Is about a 4-hour drive from the hospital. And But we all made the trip the next day, and then they told us that I have some form of lymphoma, and I mean, with a large mass around in my abdomen. So that began a barrage of tests, and that all took a couple of weeks. And when the diagnosis came back eventually, after all said and done, they said, look, you have a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's called follicular lymphoma, and very high stage 4. You have a large tumor wrapped around your aorta, and the tumor was so big it had been crushing out the organs. It was about roughly the size of a football, around my aorta. And I was stage 3 kidney disease. I only had one kidney that was working at about 12%. And I had liver disease. So the prognosis was that, given the state that I was in, it was either going to be the tumor around the aorta, because it was choking my aorta, or the kidneys, the kidney failure, or the cancer was going to kill me within the next few weeks. Without treatment, they decided that, that all sort of just depended on which one was going to kill me first. Then they told me that follicular lymphoma is a non-curable, non-operable cancer. There's nothing I can do about it except give it treatment, chemotherapy. And the more when you treat it, follicular lymphoma is what they call it. It's a reoccurring type of cancer that only progresses, and it only mutates and gets worse as you go along. So, and I was already stage 4, so they had to be very aggressive with the treatment. And the problem is that the more aggressive you treat it, the more likely it's going to return. The shorter your remission period is going to be, and the more aggressive it's going to get. So it wasn't looking good. So that also meant, apart from that, it just meant that I could no longer go back to Japan, and we had to give up our home, my business, my wife's career, and everything we had, and apart from that, it also left us homeless in Australia, because we didn't have our own place to live. We didn't have any income coming in. So we were pretty much left with nothing, and looking at going into chemotherapy treatments. So that began, a very long struggle. And when we started treatment, they put me on what was called R-CHOP. Now, this is a regime of 5 different treatments that also combined with chemotherapy drugs and antibodies and things like that. But excuse me, I just cleared my throat. So with I went through 8 treatments of what they call R-CHOP on a 21-day cycle, and I mean that was brutal, really brutal, and it wasn't very effective. It basically, by the end of that, I was still stage 2, and even though I cleared my bloods and so on, the tumor around my aorta was still there, and it hadn't really shrunk much. So they had to do radiation treatment after that for a month, every day for a month. And then they started me on rituximab. Now, rituximab is the R part of the R-CHOP. It's kind of like an antibody chemo treatment. And that was supposed to be a 2-year cycle, a 2-year plan. That is, well, they tell us that it will prolong the remission period. Okay, even though I was stage 2, they sort of labeled me as in remission. But we only did that treatment every 2 months, and apart from that, I was dealing with a lot of side effects from the chemotherapy. I had pretty bad IBS. I had all kinds of problems from like internally because of I had scarring on my esophagus and bad reflux and ulcer in my stomach and so on. There was a number of problems that were caused by the chemotherapy. And then, of course, the R-CHOP, and then all these different tests along the way. So we were testing at that stage. When they tell you have follicular lymphoma, every time you get a test or a blood test, you're worried about whether it's coming back or not, because you just can't tell, So we did this rituximab. It's supposed to be a 2-year treatment, and we got to 2014 January, because I was diagnosed in 2012, January 2012, and I was doing pretty well until like through 2013, and I started going back to the gym, and we'd been living with the Leukemia Foundation. We were still homeless, so we were just staying while I was being treated. I was able to stay with the Leukemia Foundation. But then in January 2014, I was diagnosed again as very high stage 4. So between the last test, which was only in December, and in January, I'd gone from stage 2 to stage 4 in just a month, and that left me with, I mean, this is the biggest problem with the follicular lymphoma. But it not only was I back to stage 4, everything else had regressed as well. My tumor had started growing again, and all my lymph nodes. This is the thing with lymphoma. When you're stage 4, all the lymph nodes were malignant tumors as well. It wasn't just I had one big tumor around my aorta. Every lymph node, which basically goes through from like the back of your skull all the way through your lymphatic system. So every tumor was about 3 times the size and malignant at the time. So then they decided to put me into a clinical trial, and this was a trial for a drug called bendamustine combined with rituximab again. And this was again 6 to 8 treatments. It ended up being 8 full treatments. It was supposed to be, I mean, I really didn't feel like doing this. I didn't want to go through the chemo again, but they said this was more mild and just as effective. It's kind of ironic, really. They could say it was just as effective when the first one wasn't really that effective, honestly. But the bendamustine trial, it was like they recorded everything. Like they gave me, like a nurse would call me every day, see how I'm doing, and I had to write down everything I was feeling and all this sort of stuff. And every time I went in for treatment, they gave me a private room. Everything had to be like very clinical, like being a lab rat. But from the first treatment, I went home after the first treatment, and immediately I had what they call a neutropenic fever. Now, neutropenic means that your immune system is shut down. All your neutrophils have collapsed, and that means that you've got no immune system to fight any infection. and when you get these fevers, they're very life-threatening. You can die from a neutropenic fever. And in fact, most cancer patients will actually die from an infection being allowed into the system because their immune system is being destroyed by the chemotherapy. That's pretty much what kills. And when they say died of cancer, it's really just complications due to the treatment. But from that night, I had fever of 42 degrees Celsius. And then I was back in hospital for a few days while I tried to control my fevers and so on. Then from that was exactly what happened for the rest of the treatment. Actually, I got neutropenic fevers, and from there on, for years afterwards, I was always trying to control these neutropenic fevers. Every time I spend a couple of days or a couple of hours awake, I'd get very tired and I'd start getting fevers. Then from the third treatment, I started getting blood clots from my treatment arms. Every time when they did the treatment, they would just plug it into my arm and just feed it through that way. But after the third treatment, I had blood clots all up and down my left arm, and they actually went from my wrist all the way up to my shoulder, and they were so high, it all through my arm. It was really, it kind of looked like an animated superhero. Like the veins are all popping out, and it's like a 3D roadmap sort of thing. Then the next treatment, they did the same. They swapped arms because they couldn't feed it through the blood clots. So then my right arm filled up with blood clots as well. So then they put in a port on my right side of the chest. So it's sort of sat underneath the skin, and it sort of looked like a big lump under my skin. So they implanted it so they could just plug it in, and that would feed straight. They had a tube that fed straight into my heart. So that way they could just feed the treatment straight into my heart and just spread it out as fast as possible without causing more blood clots in my arms. It didn't seem to bother them that if it's causing clots in my arms, I was kind of concerned about what it might do to my heart. But that went on for 8 treatments, and the cancer only grew. It just kept getting worse. It didn't do anything to actually fight the cancer at all. My tumor kept growing. It was actually now larger than it had previously been. And then I had the clots in my arms. I had fevers, uncontrollable fevers, and I was in a pretty bad way. So then they decided, well, it obviously didn't do anything to work at all, and they decided to put me through an autologous stem cell transplant, which means that they give me chemotherapy treatment 24 hours for about a week. So I was on a 24-hour rotation of chemotherapy for 7 days. Then on the 8th day, they were going to reintroduce my own stem cells, which they collected a couple of years earlier in 2012, to sort of reboot the system. So basically, they'd try and crash the system completely and then reboot it, But for that, they had to put in what they call a Hickman line. And that's another port, but it had 2 tubes. It was plugged straight into my heart, but it had two rubber tubes that sort of hung out and had 2 little connectors on the outside, so they could feed all these different drugs through my straight into my heart. That was just going from bad to worse, really. it was the first week, like while I was going through, I didn't feel too bad. Like I was very sick because I was obviously going through a lot of chemotherapy. But after the first week, I got an infection in the Hickman line, and my heart went AFib. My body was, I mean, the amount of heat and that these chemotherapy drugs came out of me. I was cooked from the inside out. I had like all through my esophagus, right through my stomach, my digestive tract, everything. I had thick layers of skin coming out and coming up and so on. Like layers of really thick layers of skin come peeling off my mouth, my tongue, my gums, everything. I was red because of the heat coming out of me. And I was now AFib, and then in the second week, I stopped breathing. I passed out because I stopped breathing completely, and I woke up and I had all these people standing around trying to get me breathing again, and this happened a number of times. It got so common. They just, like, the nurses would come in every 10 to 15 minutes to wake me up just to make sure that I was still breathing. I ended up on respirators. I had oxygen machines, and I had electrodes stuck all over me for tracking my heartbeat and all sorts of things going on. And eventually they found that there was an infection in the Hickman line, and then they had to pull that out, which is a crazy way of doing things. But when they pulled the Hickman line out, they just, like, one nurse just braced my shoulder and the other one just pulled it out like a tug of war, and that was it. And then they just stick a bandage over the top of it, and everything's good. But from there on, my room was quarantined. Anyone who came in, the only person that I allowed in was obviously staff, nurses and doctors, but my wife was the only visitor, and she was there all day, every day. And she would, she was amazing, actually. Like, she'd get up early in the morning and she'd make something that she thought maybe I could try eating, because I couldn't eat at the time. And then basically all I was getting was, she was making for me was frozen jelly and frozen jello, and just something to help keep me cool, but while that was all happening, I stopped breathing a number of times. I had all sorts of things going on. It was a real mess, and I couldn't move. I was basically just I was pretty much frozen up. I could barely make it to the bathroom, which was only a few steps away. And I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on, actually. And I ended up being in hospital for 6 weeks. The plan was for 4 weeks, but I ended up being there for 6 weeks. And then eventually they sent me home, and that's pretty much where I stayed. I just swapped one bed for my own bed, and I was stuck in bed for almost 2 years after that, because I couldn't. When I left the hospital, I was so I had lost a lot of weight, and I couldn't breathe properly. I couldn't move properly. At the time, even after a couple of days after being at home, I couldn't even hold a cup properly. Like, even my hands were so seized up, I couldn't move. I needed my wife to get me to the bathroom, we were just living in a little tiny studio, so it was like from the bed to the bathroom or the kitchen was only 2 steps, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't even get off the bed without my wife's help. So I was in a really bad way. But the first struggle for me was like trying to eat and trying to breathe, because I couldn't breathe properly. I was very shallow. I could hardly breathe. I was still being monitored with heart rate because my heart rate was all over the place. I was still AFib, and yeah, so they basically just sent me home to die. I ended up, it was the full year. I didn't get home until like mid-October in 2014. And they didn't really expect me to, I mean, they didn't expect me to last through the transplant because of everything that was going on. And then when they sent me home, they didn't think I'd last until Christmas. And that was mid-October. So from there on, it was just really just trying to recover, trying to get moving again, trying to get any kind of way of, I mean, any kind of lifestyle back, really, because I was, you know, I mean, the whole thing was the treatment was all about finding a way to get more time, you know, more time to live, more time to, I mean, I was only 41 at the time, and trying to get more time with my wife. So, but the problem was like the lifestyle, you know, I mean, you go home and you can't move, you can't do anything, you can't really get off the bed. It's really not much of a life worth trying to save, you know. So it was, I mean, the whole thing was, I mean, for years it was very depressing, very, it was a real struggle just to keep my sanity, really, and to just, I mean, I spent years just staring at the ceiling, you know, and I was, you know, I would go to sleep and I was hoping that I just wouldn't wake up. There was many days where I would just hope I didn't wake up. For a long time afterwards, if I was awake for, I mean, at first, it was like even, you know, half an hour watching TV, I would fall asleep. If I didn't sleep again, I would get a fever. So I was on a lot of medication to try and control these fevers and everything else, and trying to rebuild my immune system and everything like that. And I think like I was taking pills all day long, you know, and it was horrible. Yeah. So I mean, if you want to take a pause there, we can answer a couple of questions.
Yeah.
And
So I've been putting on the screen just different comments, not really questions, but comments in your favor and stuff. Just mentioning how inspired you are, and here's one from Juliet, speechless. Yeah, I mean, you have an incredible story, and I'm so glad I have you on here. Um, you know, I was almost afraid that we were going to miss, because I know, like, I had emailed you a few times. I guess you just didn't see the email, and you know, so I was getting a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. You know, it's one thing I don't do is lie, and I am so happy right now that you are here and you are telling your story. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So let me go to where I start. So we will start now. Some of these questions might have been answered already. It's just because it's throughout the whole time you've been telling your story. But I'll put them up on the thing, and just in case there are people that came in late as well. So Terry Sue is asking, why were you living in Japan originally? Like, what was the reason originally why you were living in Japan?
well, I was working in Japan. I was a strength coach, and I was coaching some young basketballers. And I mean, originally I went over there. I was teaching English, and I did a bit of both. So while I was over there, but my wife is Japanese, and you know, her family, we were living close to her family as well. So plus there was just, originally I went over there just for a bit of a holiday, and ended up staying there for 10 years. Because it's just an easy place to live. Actually, I just really enjoy living in Japan. It's a beautiful place. Yeah.
This one's a two-part question, so I'll ask both. I'll do both parts, but it's more of a Terry's
That's right.
girl is also asking, I wonder about the air and water quality in Japan. And then she follows up with, not that America is much better or trustworthy with our resources.
Actually, the water quality in Japan is much better than it is in Australia. There's a lot of stuff in Japan they won't allow that Australia, like Australia's drinking water, for example, is like is full of chemicals, including like they pump a lot of fluoride into the water here in Australia. But apart from that, there have been neurotoxins and chemotherapy drugs, birth control drugs, and all kinds of things found in Australia's drinking water, which I'm really lucky actually. Where I'm on tank water. I collect and use rainwater. Plus, it's filtered and so on.
So you do like Rick.
So, yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, I live in the countryside, so we don't actually have town plumbing. So it's all from water tanks.
No, but he's always mentioning on how he uses rainwater for his water supply and for his drinking water.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Okay, so another one from Terry Sue. So was more medical help done in Japan or Australia?
Most of no. Because I was diagnosed in Australia, we decided to have it treated here. Actually, the hospital here in Brisbane is actually one of the world's best for cancer treatments, actually. And they have a research facility there, so they do a lot of research into cancer here. And but I mean, when it comes to that, I mean, there was at the time I didn't know any better. So these people were the experts, and we were all just sort of trained to believe that these people are beyond reproach, and this is you listen to the experts, or because that's your only chance. Your only chance is to listen to these experts. So that's my point. That was my point of view at the time, but not so much anymore. There have been some successes with lymphoma in recent years, in the last few years here in Australia with immunotherapy treatment, which is much more mild, very different to some of the chemotherapy drugs that they use with me. But there was a 2004 study done here in Australia and in America, and the efficacy rate of chemotherapy in Australia was only 2.1%, and in America it was 2%. So that's like an extremely low efficacy rate of any kind of treatment, and I mean, we could get into the details like how much chemotherapy actually works or not, but it's that's kind of a long story as well. It's not really very effective. So yeah.
Okay. So I just put it in the chat. Jeannie said that you're lagging a little bit. Yeah, you kind of are, but I just wanted to. I didn't know if they had saw it or if it was just me. So let's go back to the. All right, so Uncle Charlie, which I just noticed not in the chats anymore, but he's asking, "How are you doing, Thomas? I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking." And he's also asking, which is more for you, what do you eat in a day and how many times? It's kind of his standard question for everybody. So.
Okay. So I eat, well, it kind of varies depending on the price of food at the moment. But yeah, this week I've been eating, I usually eat 3 meals a day. But I eat about 2 kilos of meat a day, roughly. I eat whatever steak I can find, like this is cheap, and yeah, every now and then I'll splurge out, but it's, you know, I eat a lot of fatty meat. Sometimes I do eat a lot of eggs, but I try to stay away from the store-bought eggs. I have my own chickens, so you know that's a better source of getting your eggs. But generally speaking, I stay away from monogastric animals as well. I don't mind like pork and chicken and that sort of stuff can be fine, but depend on the source of it, because whatever they, like a monogastric animal eats, it comes out in their products as well, whether it comes out in their eggs or their meat or their fat. So I try to stay away from things that are fed, soy especially, but any kind of seed oils and that sort of stuff. So generally speaking, it's mostly beef while I'm here in Australia. When I do go back to Japan, I eat a lot of seafood, eat a lot of fish. So I like that. Yeah.
I also just wanted to say hello. I don't know if I mentioned it before or not, but we got another person that joined us on Instagram. We got Marianne, Pegleg Carnivore, is actually here in the chats. And both Mark and Marianne, if you guys have a question, I will keep on going back and forth, and I will make sure to relay that question to DC. So don't think that just because you're on Instagram and I can't post it, that I won't be able to say what it is. All right. So Terry Sue is asking you, was that a copper coffee cup? I guess your coffee cup that you had.
Yeah.
Is there
it's copper.
Is there like a benefit to having a copper coffee cup or no?
Yeah, copper is actually really good for a few things. I mean, as long as you don't get, I mean, I don't eat organ meat. I consider that really dog food, really, because it's too lean. But copper is really good for a number of things. Apparently, you know, copper is quite good for hair growth as well. Like, you know, fingernails and stuff like that get stronger. It also will, if you have fluoride or anything like that in the water, copper actually will help to get rid of those chemicals in the water. It also kills fungus, you know, fungal growth and things like that. So it's one way of just getting a little bit of copper into your diet by using a copper cup. I also have copper rings in my ice bath because it kills that. In that way, I can also absorb a bit of copper through the water, but it also kills the fungus. So it actually keeps the water clean. Helps. Well, and the ice bath has a filter on it, but it's, you know, it still gets fungus and stuff like that grow. You know, it gets slimy and that sort of thing. But yeah, copper kills all that. Copper is really good for keeping the water really clean and clear for my ice bath as well. So there's a number of reasons why I use copper.
Okay. And Terry Sue, yeah, get yourself a copper cup. That's definitely. And Grandma's saying, "Don't mind me. I love Godzilla." Okay. I like Godzilla too. All right. Okay, so this is pretty intense. So, Jeannie is asking, David, knowing what you know now, if you had to do it again, would you have the chemotherapy? It's pretty deep.
Yeah, I would not have done the second, like after this. I think that when you are a certain stage, like very high stage 4, there may be a medical intervention needed. So I think I probably would have done the original R-chop, even though it was very painful. But I think that knowing what I know now, if I was in that same situation, I would have done, my recovery would have been very different. So I would not have, and certainly afterwards, the year afterwards, I wouldn't have gone through, I wouldn't have taken on the extra radiation. I wouldn't have taken on the rituximab or the second stage of treatment, because I probably wouldn't have needed it. Knowing what I know now, I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't have needed it. So yeah, I would have done all that very differently, because the thing is, with especially when you are diagnosed with cancer, because the so-called experts tell you that it's a genetic disease, there's nothing you can do about it. So they tell you that it doesn't matter what you do, it's not going to have any kind of effect on your treatment. So it really just takes you out of the driver's seat, and you pretty much just give up and just say, well, fine, I'll just do whatever they tell me to, sort of thing. The one thing that I did different for, which I didn't realize at the time was actually helping me a lot, was that because I was going through so much heat, there was so much coming out of me, like there's radiation coming out of through my skin and so on. I took a lot of cold showers to help control the fevers, and I fasted. I fasted afterwards because I simply could not eat. There was, especially after the chop was the worst part. All I could taste was the chemotherapy drugs, and it kind of tastes like metal. That's all you can taste in your mouth, and it's very, very strong. I had a lot of smells, different smells. Like it could be people's BO, for example. It could be alcohol gel. It could be fragrance or anything like that. Would set me off. Would make me vomit because the smell it'd be too strong. Maybe very, very sensitive to that sort of stuff. So I fasted for at least a week after each treatment, and that really helped me a lot. I didn't realize why at the time, of course. I just figured that I just couldn't eat. It just made me sick anyway. So I think that was more effective, along with the cold showers, than anything that that I ate. And everything I ate afterwards, it was just pretty much what I could feel, what I felt like I could stomach at the time. I didn't think about nutrition so much because, at the end of the day, this was a so-called genetic disease that it didn't affect, what I ate didn't affect it. Doctors, I mean, the nutrition advice I got at the hospital was disgusting. They even suggested that junk food might be better for me because it didn't have enough nutrients to feed the cancer. That's the level of stupidity that's actually being told to cancer patients. And while going through treatment, they literally have a trolley of junk food, like candy bars and soft drinks and whatever you can think of, actually being wheeled around and being given to patients while they're getting treatment pumped through their arms. And then the hospital food itself, I mean, absolutely disgusting, like tin beans and tin spaghetti and pancakes that looked like they were a couple of years old, and you could you probably use them for frisbees and stuff. It was all carbs and all highly processed junk. So it was really disgusting food. And even then, like I would remark that they're trying to kill us with the food. And now I'm pretty damn sure they are. So it's just the lack of support, like true support for cancer patients while they're going through treatment, is phenomenal. Like really, the advice that they are given it's little wonder most of them get, well, it's little wonder that so many die from cancer. But unfortunately, that's not going to change anytime soon.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
Okay, so Aaron's asking a little bit
And
more of a casual question. What time is it? I guess she means like what time is it where you're at?
it's yeah, it's right now. It's 5 to 7 in the morning. So not too late.
It's early
Not
there.
too
I'm
early.
sorry about that. I didn't realize you were. I didn't realize it was that early for
okay.
you.
That's okay.
Okay, so this is just a statement from Terry Sue about me. Thomas should have a pen in his hand taking little side notes for the questions. I know he's reading the chats. Yeah. I don't have a pen, Terry Sue, but that's kind of what the starring is about. That's why I star the questions as I'm going along, and that's why I'm able to ask them now. So, all right. Let's see if there was any more questions just popped up. Okay. Gemma's just saying that she's sorry she's late, was helping elderly neighbor, love you, DC, but wish you were on my time as 2 a.m. for me.
Oh well. Yeah. Thank you, Jim. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Sorry about the time. Yeah. So yeah, and there's, like, getting back to Jeannie's question, there's a lot of things I would do differently. When I came out of the transplant in 2014, the prognosis was that I wouldn't make it to Christmas. But the first problem the first two problems I had was, one was breathing and the other one was eating. I couldn't eat anything. Like, I was super sensitive as well. I still had many layers of skin sort of peeling out of my mouth and my esophagus. I had a lot of damage done because of the transplant. I now had fibrosis on all of my organs, including my brain and my heart and my kidney and liver. So that just means scarring, organ scarring. And apparently, when you even my lungs were scarred. Okay, so because there was just so much heat, I was cooked from the inside out. It's like being in a microwave. Okay, and so my lungs were, I couldn't move. All the muscles were so dried and seized up as well. Like the muscles around that support your breathing, even the intercostal muscle between the ribs and everything was so tight that I just could not breathe properly. So it was very difficult to, even just lying in bed, trying to draw air into my lungs. And then there was obviously everything else that was going on. I had all the organ scarring, and through my esophagus, my stomach had a large ulcer, and I actually had a hole in my stomach. But the ulcer was, it was huge. So there was another reason why I couldn't eat. But with all the layers of skin coming out of my mouth as well, and my tongue, it was all fresh skin, and my taste buds and everything was very different and very sensitive. So any kind of food that I did try to eat, a lot of it would burn my mouth. It kind of, I've always had, most of my meals have been at home cooked meals. My wife would always cook me stuff, things, but I tried eating, fruits and vegetables and things like that, but it was all very acidic, and it would sting. It was very painful to try and eat. The only thing I could eat was meat. That was the only thing that didn't. It was very difficult to eat meat even, because nothing was working. My whole system, nothing was working properly. So anything that I did eat would just go straight through me at first. So it was a really difficult situation as well. So I was eating very, very slowly, very small bites. I could barely, like, I had literally, at first, my wife was feeding me because I couldn't do it. I couldn't feed myself. Um, so it was, everything was cut up very, very small. I would, try and chew the meat for, it like a steak would take me hours and hours to eat, like it was pretty much an all day job sort of thing. I really couldn't eat anything else, even though I did try. I was very sensitive. It would go straight through me, and it would be quite painful. Water, water was a problem, just trying to sip water all day long. And then there was the breathing. And because I had so much scarring on my lungs and everything else, I really could not get much air in, or just even do that properly. I didn't really worry about the food too much. If I could eat some meat just very slowly, I knew it would just take some time. It would take a long time before I could just, eat and digest something. But the most immediate problem I had was breathing. So, I found, at the time, I found some people doing breath work on the internet, and my wife was helping me with this. And I couldn't do what they were doing, obviously. There was no way. I could barely, I couldn't even draw a full lung. So I really just had to, I found these people doing these practices, and it took me a while to think about how to do this properly. But eventually I found that if I just broke it down and I did some small or hyperventilations of what I could manage anyway, and then try to do retaining breath, so like a breath control, and hold my breath. And that actually was, at first, like the most I could hold my breath was less than 10 seconds. And then eventually it got better, and it just sort of grew from there. So I got into breath work eventually. It took me years. It took me years before I could walk properly. And it even took me a year before I even wanted to start trying to get off the bed, to be honest. A lot of that was not just, it wasn't just the pain I was in, but it was, the depression of it as well, just staring at the ceiling all day, not being able to stay awake long enough to watch a movie. I was basically, even when you go through chemotherapy, you get what's called chemo brain, or chemo fog. Okay. Which is like brain fog, but far worse. You feel like a dementia patient. And for a long time afterwards, because I'd finished 3 years of solid chemotherapy. Like, there was no break. There was no remission between those 3 years. So I spent that whole time in this chemo fog that was far worse after I got out of the transplant. And I couldn't string, at first I couldn't even speak properly. Like, when I was trying to talk to my wife, most of it just came out as incoherent babble. Like, I just had no way to really communicate. And it was really scary, actually. It was frustrating at first, very frustrating. And you sound like an idiot, and you sound pretty much like a dementia patient. And that went on for a long time. It was a long time before I could even, hold a conversation with my wife, So that was very depressing as well. And then eventually, when I did eventually start moving again, which took a bit, of rehab myself. I couldn't go to rehab here in Australia. That was too expensive. And I didn't have, everyone expected me to live the rest of my life, a short life, in a wheelchair. but we didn't have any space or money for a wheelchair. So the only option I had was either stay in bed, which I did for a while, and let my wife do everything for me, or get up and move, get up and walk and do it myself. So that was the choice. So I eventually decided to get up and do it, get up and move and walk. It took a lot of work. I had to rehabilitate myself from my bed, using, trying to get my legs to move, trying to get some sort of coordination back. And then eventually, like, I managed to I got to the stage where I could stand up off the bed and by myself without my wife and walk to the bathroom, which was only a couple of steps. But that was a big victory for me, being able to go to the toilet by myself, being able to stand up off the bed. That was a huge victory for me, and then eventually we'll go for a walk around the block, or even just around the building, and then around the block. And then eventually I managed to go for a walk with my wife. And, it was a struggle at first. I had to use a walker. My wife was always waiting for me. She's 5 foot nothing. And like usually before this, I was always waiting for her because she walked slow. But now as the tables were turned, like she was always waiting for me. So she'd walk a bit and then wait, and walk a bit and then wait, sort of thing. But just doing that was a big victory for me. And eventually, I could keep up, and eventually I could keep walking. And then it took about 5 years after that before I went back to the gym and started training again. And I mean, there's a number of things that I've come across through the years, like studying nutrition and biochemistry and other things. But, I have 8 health hacks now that I think that I believe saved my life and gave me a new life to now. There are still things that I need to manage, of course, and I have to keep these routines of mine, because I can go downhill very, very quickly. I still only have one kidney working, and I still have organ scarring and things like that. So these are things that I just have to manage, but I do manage them quite well, and I'm still, even though I have these other certain problems, like one of the side effects of chemotherapy is that a low production of blood cells. Okay, so because it permanently inhibits your bone marrow to produce blood cells. So and because I have only one kidney working, so my EPO, what they call EPO is erythropoietin, is a hormone that's largely produced in your kidneys, and that stimulates your bone marrow to produce more blood cells. Okay, so this is why I do breath work and cold therapy, because that actually will help me to stimulate more of that, and that has helped me to get into a stable blood cell production. And so there are limitations that I have because of all those years of treatment and so on. But you can definitely manage that with external habits. So that's why I do that. Okay.
So we're talking about the breathing technique, and a lot of people have making comments about it, which I'm trying to put up on the thing. Before we go to the next batch of questions, because we got about 8 in the start, believe it or not, can you show us a little demonstration of, just a small demonstration of the breathing technique, like for people, that might be interested?
Well, I mean, when it comes to, some of the more effective breathing techniques, I think for most people in general, it really comes down to CO2 tolerance. Okay. So a lot of people don't get the what we need to breathe is not oxygen so much. It's actually CO2 that we need, because CO2 has many roles in the body. This also helps you to metabolize fat faster as well. Okay, when you lose fat, for example, you actually breathe fat out. Like, out of every 10 kilos that you lose in body fat, 8.4 of those kilos is that you actually breathe out. The rest comes out in easy water and things like that. So it's really about building up a CO2 tolerance. And CO2 is a vasodilator, for one. It's also an enabler for your antioxidants that you actually produce yourself. Okay, because you don't need to eat antioxidants. We produce antioxidants ourselves from our food and from hormones and breathing and so on. But it's also the signaling molecule for your hemoglobin to actually pick up the oxygen molecule and deliver that to your cells. Okay, so how do you oxidize fat? You oxidize fat by getting oxygen to the cells, and without CO2, you can't do that. Okay, so Thomas has just dropped out for a minute. I guess he'll be back in a minute. So thank you, Gemma. I really appreciate that. The thing that you can do, some of the best breathing techniques are actually some of the easiest things that you can do. Okay, so one of the best things you can do for yourself for building CO2 tolerance and for correcting your breathing is to make sure that you only breathe through your nose, in and out, and also while you are sleeping, because the way you breathe also regulates your nervous system. Okay, so if you get anxiety, depression, and or stress and so on, a lot of that is actually regulated by the way you breathe. So when it comes to there's a theory that they call the polyvagal theory. Okay, and because when you are in a sympathetic nervous state, that means that you are in the fight or flight, and you're breathing fast, your mouth breathing, you're blowing off a lot of CO2, your nervous system gets dysregulated and you start to stress a lot and you get anxiety and so on. So it's really about controlling that. And the best way to bring your nervous system down and to get into the rest and digest mode. Now, this is important for anyone who's interested in nutrition as well, because if you eat in an upregulated nervous state, so you have anxiety and so on, you actually lose half of the nutrients that you are trying to get from your food. It just goes straight through because your body is in that fight or flight mode, which means that you are not ready to eat. You're either supposed to be either running after something or running from something. Okay, so it's not going to digest anything. It's just going to pass it through so you can move fast. Okay, so getting your nervous system into that downregulated rest and digest mode is really important. So that way you can not only absorb more nutrients, but you will feel full a lot sooner as well, because you are absorbing more nutrients, and this is going to help just everything else in the body as well. So the best way to do that is to take in, just breathing in and out through the nose. Take in a slow breath. It's not about breathing fast. The breathing should be slow. So you shouldn't. The average person these days they generally breathe about anywhere between 18 and 25 breaths per minute. And what we should be doing is about 5 or 6. Okay. Optimal breathing is 5.5 breaths per minute. Okay. So this is why, like monks, throughout the years, priests, even, through prayer, they slow their breathing down when they're in their meditative state. So it's very easy. There are very easy, simple things that you can do. On my Substack as well, I also give good reasons why you need to have the ability to breathe in both nostrils, because if breathing through each nostril or alternating nostrils can stimulate different hemispheres of the brain. So if you are, for example, if you only breathe through the left nostril, for example, you only stimulate one side of the brain, and that can lead you into a dysregulated sort of nervous system as well. Okay. So one of my favorite techniques is what they call nadi shodhana. And it's just alternate nostril breathing. And you just put your thumb on one nostril and breathe in through the other, breathe in through the open nostril, obviously. You just say a nice slow breath in for 5 seconds, and then you just close the other one, breathe out, really slow. The slower you breathe out, the lower your nervous system. You're going to get down into that what they call the vagal. You're going to activate the vagus nerve, and this will help to calm your system. Okay, and then you breathe the nostril. You just exhale from. You breathe in again, and then swap again. Okay, so that's one of my favorite techniques. And that's the first thing I do when I wake up, because you want to clear the nasal passages, okay, for one, so that you can throughout the day you don't favor either one, because every 90 minutes or so your body naturally swaps nostrils to favor, okay, and there's a reason for that, okay. So that's always been the first thing I do when I wake up. I clear my nasal passages and I do the alternate nostril breathing. I like to do a 5 count in and a 9 count out. So it's very slow in and very slow out. Okay. Now there's another great reason for doing this is you also produce more nitric oxide. And there are glands in your sinus passages that will produce nitric oxide from. Now, nitric oxide, apart from is also a vasodilator. It's also a signaling molecule for your brain, so it actually helps to highlight different hemispheres in the brain and gets you thinking clearer. So it helps to clear brain fog. It's also an antioxidant and enabler. It's a molecule that acts like a hormone, and there are a number of ways. Nitric oxide really helps us throughout the body, and there are a number of ways we produce it. You also get nitric oxide from sunlight, through your skin, just like D3. You also get it from food. Okay, so like amino acids from meat. Okay. But breathing is another great way to stimulate it. And if you hum through your nose, you can actually produce 15 times more nitric oxide. So that's one of the best techniques. And so if you want to do it, we'll just give it an exercise like that. Just block one nose, block one nostril, just breathe in for 5 seconds. You go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Swap nostrils. Now breathe out for 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Swap nostrils. Out 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now in again. Sorry. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Swap nostrils. Out. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now just continue that. If you're watching in the chat, just continue doing that. And
And
you
I'm
will.
hoping me and Dave wasn't the only two that were actually doing that while he was doing the small exercise. It'd be nice if everybody participated. Yeah. So, wow. Okay.
The other, the
So,
other, the other, the other thing I think is just as important actually is to I use this is surgical tape. Now I cut a little bit of this off every night, so I cut about that much off, and I
okay.
just tape my mouth shut every
Oh, you
night.
do the mouth taping?
That Yeah, because that will ensure that I only breathe through my nose while I'm sleeping. Because if you are mouth breathing while you are sleeping, you're getting about, say, 6, 7 hours or 8 hours, depending on how much you sleep, of mouth breathing means you blow off too much CO2. And when you blow off too much CO2, you get an elevated nervous system. So you wake up with anxiety, all right? And you wake up with stressed and so on. And you also in that fight or flight state. So even if you eat something or something like that, it's just not going to a very healthy way to start the day, you know. So that's just a good way to ensure that you get a good night's sleep and you wake up feeling more refreshed as well, because while you are breathing through your nose, you're also stimulating the brain as well. So it's a good technique to use.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay. So
It definitely made me feel very relaxed after I was done with the first part of it. So,
yeah. Yeah, it really doesn't take long for you to do that. Like the alternate nostril breathing, say 5 seconds in and 9 seconds out, will help
yeah, I
to
think
get into
now
that
we did it
state.
we did it 1.5 times, basically. How many times every night before bed do you think that a person should do that? And what are
I
the
do it
benefits of it? Like, what have you seen it help?
I mean, there are many. Yeah, well, there are many benefits from it. I usually use that as a warm up. Like that's the first thing I do in the morning,
Oh,
and
okay.
then I do my ice bath, and then I do breath work after that. So any kind of breath work, I use the alternate nostril as a warm up first. There are many different techniques for breath work, like tummo breathing is pretty popular. Yogic breathing. Actually, I'm working on I've been for the last 10 months. I've been studying with Shaolin monks as well, online, but we learning different breathing techniques as well. But there are a lot of it's based in yogic kind of breathing and building CO2 tolerance. There are some very famous ones out there now, like popular ones like the Wim Hof method, for example, where which is based in tummo breathing, and then you do a prolonged breath hold afterwards. Now, all of these different techniques have different outcomes and reasons for doing them. But for me, I like building CO2 tolerance is very good for because for many things actually. I mean, apart from being able to oxygenate your cells and things like that, if you stimulate your hypoxia, but there are proteins that are called hypoxia inducible factors. Okay, and if you do a prolonged breath hold, you produce these HIS, which stimulate the kidneys to produce more EPO. So because I only have one kidney, and I have it, my bone marrow is inhibited with because of the chemotherapy to produce blood cells. This helps to stimulate all that process. It also helps to stimulate your liver to produce more testosterone. This is another reason why I do cold therapy as well. Cold therapy is one of the most important things that I do, and it's something that I do every day. There are a number of studies out there that say like all you need is about 11 minutes per week. Now, if you are, these are things that are based on, basically it's just like a nutrition sort of thing too, like lifestyle thing. They ask people in Europe, like how often, these healthy people in Europe, how often do you do like cold therapy, jump in the ice and that sort of stuff? And the average worked out, 11 minutes. So some do it less, some do it more. That's how they get their average, right? Now, these are healthy people that don't really have any sort of anything else really going on, so that they don't really need to do a whole lot, and it's just something they do as a bit of a health hack, basically. So for me, I do at least 3 to 5 minutes every morning, jump in the ice and just sort of I do some sort of breathing while I'm in the ice, because it's helps to calm the nervous system. While you're doing these things, you are actually training your nervous system to cope with these hormetic stresses. This is what all these lifestyle hacks are all about. You deliberately acutely stress your body so that you can train the nervous system to cope with these things. And that's what breathwork's about as well. Breathwork, cold therapy, grounding, and other things as well. So all in all, I have 8 things that I like to, I talk about, and that I think that have made a profound difference to my life. But there are a number of other things that we do as well. Like grounding, for example. If I'm inside, I have a grounding mat under my desk right now for my feet, so I'm barefoot. I have a grounding sheet on my bed. I have grounding pillowcases. I go outside. I do my breath work with my outside, and I'm grounded in the grass, for example. And sunlight, natural light. At night, I use red light and that sort of stuff as well. So these are all things that there are many things that actually contribute. It's never just one thing. But over the years, the first thing I started on was meat, obviously, to eat, and eventually I did try to incorporate fruits and vegetables and that sort of stuff, because I like that. I used to love fruit, for example. But that made a lot of trouble for me. It gave me a lot of trouble. Like IBS was very strong, and I had a number of kidney issues because of it, and all sorts of other problems as well. So eventually, when I took all that back out, and now I've learned to manage my diet with just meat and sometimes eggs. I've managed to, and now it's been 11 and a half years in remission. So I've defied the odds, basically. They didn't expect me to last. They certainly didn't think I would make it to Christmas after the transplant, and they certainly didn't think that, or they thought that the cancer would be back a lot sooner. But I'm in a remission now for 11 and a half years. So all by changing my lifestyle a bit, and getting used to training myself to deal with these small stresses, so that everything else feels a little bit easier.
We've got a lot of questions in the chats, 19 to be exact. So Terry Sue says, was it fevers or hot flashes? They are kind of similar feeling. So I guess she's asking because
No, that were fevers. Yeah, yeah. These were I was being monitored very, very tightly. Like, and my temperature, blood pressure, everything was monitored very tightly. Especially, my wife. My wife was so paranoid after the transplant because I, couldn't breathe or I stopped breathing so many times that for about 3 years afterwards, she would wake me up. If I was sleeping a bit longer, she would wake me up just to make sure I was breathing. Even sometimes in the middle of the night. I was very tightly monitored.
yeah, actually, funny story with that. My grandparents used to fight all the time, as most grandparents do, and my grandmother was like a hypochondriac, and she used to take a mirror and put it under his nose every time he'd fall asleep on the chair, and he used to
Yeah.
hate that, because it was so annoying. So he used to hold his breath, so then there would be no breath on the mirror, and she'd be like all panicky because, so it's just kind of
Yeah.
cruel.
Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
mark there. Okay. Okay, so we're going to hide that current statement. So this was already pretty much answered, but I just want to show that I am acknowledging everybody. So Scooby the dog is asking, if you had to do it again, would you do the treatments? So she didn't really ask about chemotherapy per se. She's asking all the treatments. So would there be a treatment that you would still do?
Well, I would probably try, like I said before, like earlier, there have been some successes recently with immunotherapy. And immunotherapy is vastly more subtle. It's much more much easier on the body. So I would probably use that if I was in the same situation again. But I mean, hopefully I'll never be in that situation again. But I would certainly employ everything that I do now, like the cold therapy and breath work especially. They're non-negotiable for me now. They are the first two things I do every day, and before I sleep. The breath control is one of the biggest things I think we can do for many reasons, which I talk about a lot on my channel. Cold therapy is the same. The ice baths, whether if you don't have an ice bath, even just a cold room, or being outside in the cold, or cold showers. Cold showers are good too. That can be just as effective. But even if I did have to go through treatment, I would continue to do these things, the things that I do now, my 8 habits, to not just improve my chances of success with treatment, but to manage the treatment a lot easier. I think it would certainly make the recovery a lot faster and a lot easier than the way I did it the first time. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that's cool. That's good to know. All right, so let's take that out. So there's been a few questions, and they're kind of connected, so I'm looking for all of them. But so the first one is, I'm just looking for it. I apologize, because I'm going to scroll and ask them all together because it's kind of the same characteristics. If that makes any sense. Uh, and it's mostly from Jemet, Juju, which Juju is giving you a lot of props. Oh, okay. So Jemet's asking, how would she do an ice bath in her tub? Like, what would the method
Yeah.
be?
Well, I mean, simply like fill up with water, like just cold water, straight cold water. Now that might be cold enough for some people. Okay. But what I do, even with my ice bath actually has a cooler and a filter, but I still add ice to it. And instead of buying ice every time I use it, I have like plastic drink containers with, like just 2-liter drink containers. I fill that with water and I freeze that every day. So I have about 20 kilos of ice that I put into the bath every day. That's a very simple process that you can do that won't cost any extra, except for a bit of freezer space. So if you have a bit of freezer space, just get some containers, fill them up with water and freeze them, and just use it that way. So don't fill up the container though, because the ice expands when it freezes. So just be wary of that, so you don't break the bottles and so on. But that's what I do. I just very simple.
That actually answered this question. Can I put ice in my bathtub? So I believe that answered the question of putting ice, because that's exactly what you recommend. All right, so let's hide that. And then Brian connected to it. DC, do you meditate? Which you do the breathing. So I don't know if that's a form of meditation or not, but I'm going to say. And use the sauna. LOL, you just answered the cold plunge question, LOL. But I guess he's asking if you do the hot sauna and if you actually meditate.
Yeah. I used to try meditating. Actually, I couldn't do that because I have ADHD, which was made far worse after all the chemo. But so I found it very difficult to try and sort of just settle my mind. But after breath work, yes, and during the breath work, especially the prolonged breath holds, like sometimes I'll hold my breath for a very long, quite a long period, 3 minutes plus. So in that state, I do meditate, but I use breath work to get into that meditative state. Okay, so it's kind of combined. As to the sauna, I don't use the sauna, but I do like saunas. I think they are very effective and very useful. I just don't have access to a sauna at the moment. So, but saunas. When it comes to cold therapy as well, and saunas, timing is important. I think that, for example, before you exercise later on in the day, sort of thing, I think do cold therapy in the mornings, because it lowers the inflammation in your joints. It can make you work harder in the gym later on or throughout the day, because your body is at a cooler temperature, so you can push yourself more later through the day. But it also helps to regulate your nervous system, so you feel more at ease, more calm, and more able to deal with problems throughout the day, because you've already gone through that hormetic stressor. There's only a certain, there was back in the 90s, there was a study done on using parachuters, like people jumping out of airplanes, and your nervous system basically has like one good stressor in it, throughout each day. So if you jump out of the plane once and your parachute works and you have that stress out of the way, the second time you jump out of the airplane, your nervous system doesn't freak out as much, and the more you do it, then the more your nervous system is calmer with it. So by the end of the day, it gets very easy for you to just jump out of the airplane. And it's the same with the ice bath. So you jump in the ice bath first thing in the morning, the rest of the day feels much easier. Sauna, for example, is good for like later in the day, like after exercise or after work sort of thing. And it will help you with a lot of things. Actually can help you with your breathing, because the air is thick and warm and humid and so on. can also help with sweating out deuterium and things like that, and clearing your lymphatic system and so on. So there are many good reasons to have a sauna if you have one available, but timing is everything. Okay, next one.
So next question. So Terry Sue's asking, now we're going to go to the copper thing. Is copper only meant for drinking cold things, or do you drink coffee at all in your coffee?
I don't drink coffee. No.
Oh, you don't drink
I
coffee?
don't drink coffee. No.
In general.
All
right.
Yeah, in general, I don't drink coffee. There's a number of reasons for that, but
can it be done for hot liquids or no?
Or yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. Yeah, I can't see any problem with that if you have a hot drink with it. Yeah.
And then Spanky is asking, DC, your thoughts on wearing.
If you have,
what's your thoughts on wearing a copper bracelet?
Keep in mind. Oh, okay. Well, that's one way to absorb. I mean, you absorb a lot through your skin. This is another one of my health hacks, is wearing natural fibers. Okay, because we actually absorb quite a lot through our skin, and clothing like polyester clothing, you actually absorb a lot of PFAS, like PFAs, plastics, because polyester is basically made from plastics and that sort of stuff, and they are very, very strong xenoestrogens as well. So you not only get plastics sort of clogging up your lymphatic system and actually do make their way to the brain and so on, but they're very strong in xenoestrogens. Now, xenoestrogens will inhibit your body's ability to produce testosterone, and that this is bad for both men and women. Okay, because testosterone stimulates your kidney to produce EPO, and the EPO stimulates the bone marrow to produce more blood cells, and that includes white blood cells and stem cells. Now, that means that that's going to inhibit your immune system, which is going to make you very sick. So I only wear natural fiber clothing, so cotton mostly. So coming into contact with chemicals, okay, like shampoos, soaps and things like that, these all have the same problem. Okay, so yeah, wearing things like copper bracelets can be one way to help you get your minerals as well. Okay, so yeah, I don't see any reason why. That would be one way. Yeah,
maybe I'll get like a whole like armband. Never mind a bracelet. But,
yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a lot of copper to. I mean, if you get there, I mean, there is a problem if you get too much copper, it can be bad for your kidneys as well. Okay, so that's why I don't.
So you gotta be careful. Okay.
Yeah, so that's one reason why I don't eat organ meat as well, because if you do get too much copper into your kidneys, it can be a problem. Yeah, but absorbing what I get from like drinking a copper cup or the copper rings in my ice bath, that sort of thing, that's a good thing.
Okay, so I'm going to go right back to the top again and show this one from Brian Airy. DC, do you know what brought on the illness, and do you think the tsunami, earthquake, and stress have any part of this? So obviously we're asking from the past.
I think stress might have a lot of something to do with it, but lifestyle and diet helps. Yeah, lifestyle and diet were the biggest problems for me. I've had kidney problems for a long time, like since I was born, because I was born premature and I had organ development problems when I was born. But yeah, definitely lifestyle. I was into the fitness industry, and I used to take a lot of supplements, you know, protein powders, all these other different, powders and stuff like that. Pre-workout drinks, post-workout drinks, and I was eating a lot. I was eating 5-6 times a day, and I spent a decade pretty much just eating chicken breast and veggies and rice and that sort of stuff as well. So low fat diet, I think, was probably one of the biggest problems, and of course all the supplements and so on as well. So yeah, it was all diet and lifestyle before. I don't think the tsunami or the earthquake had anything to do with it. They did give us, like, there were radiation problems. We weren't, because we didn't live very far from the Fukushima power plant and stuff like that. But I really don't see that had anything directly to do with it. I really don't think there's anything. I mean, it takes a combination of things. It's the same as healing. It's never really just one thing that causes these problems. It's decades of the wrong lifestyle, and it takes a combination of things. Like there are many cogs in the clock. Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm like reading a couple things in here. So this is a quote from Spanky. Terry, it's fine and good to sleep naked, but I got in trouble at Sleep Country Bed Store. They kicked me out, LOL. Okay. I don't blame them, Spanky. and Jem has asked a few times if she can see your duck, your cute little ducky, but she said, don't tell Rick.
Oh, okay. Okay, just give me a minute. I'll have to go get him.
Is he there?
Yeah, he's there.
All right, there you go, Juju. You got your wish. Yeah, and Gary, I don't have 8-ball. That's Amy. Oh my God, look at that. Hey, buddy.
He's a little fluffy. Yeah, but he needs a bath, so I'm going to put him back in the sleep. Come on. There we go.
I don't agree, Terry Sue. Julie is not really the female Rick, because Julie would be eating the duck, not just asking for the cute duck.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. So that's Louis.
And Terry Sue's just on that stick up to him. Oh my God, he's grown a lot in the last few days. He's a shit machine. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure what pet is it?
Absolute shit machine. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So grandma's this is either grandma asking or it's baby. I don't know. Like I said, grandma, baby for mayor. Have you ever used something like Keto Mojo to see how far into ketosis you are in?
Into ketosis? No. I've never measured the ketones, and I don't need to. Okay. I know everyone gets excited when they go to a carnivore diet, for example, and they start, okay, I've got to get into ketosis. I've got to get into ketosis, and like how far, and then like to measure how far into ketosis they are. Like they're going to get some sort of like an award or something. That is not the goal. Okay. It doesn't matter to me. Like when we eat, we get in and out of ketosis all the time, and at the moment I'm training fairly heavily, so I'm eating 3 times a day, so I'm going to get in and out of ketosis all day long. There's a good interview I did with Richard Smith. Actually, we're talking about this. If you go and have a look at that, because he's very informative. But this that to me is just not the goal. the goal for me is to be healthy, to be strong, and to control my my condition, and that is all I need to do. I don't worry about some things like that. I do track, even that I don't do anymore so much. Even my blood glucose levels, I used to measure that daily, but I don't bother worrying about that anymore. I just every now and then I'll check it, but it's really not the problem. So yeah, I don't you don't stress about these things too much.
Okay, so just a little added. So Terry Sue's giving us both compliment. Yes, great interview. Thomas is being a pro for sure, and DC is a great guest as well. So thank you, Terry Sue. I appreciate that. And the next one is more of a statement from Terry Sue. Cancer and diabetes seem to be the two worst culprits of the SAD diet. I can't argue with that.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like cancer, for example, it's just like even like Dr. Chafee every now and then he'll say like cancer is like diabetes type 5, all right? Because that's pretty much where it starts. Like it's really just it starts, is a disease of the liver really, and then it sort of progresses from there, doesn't it? So yeah.
And thank you, Jemmett, for that, for all my guests that have been on. But you are definitely a pretty good guest. I'm not going to deny that.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
So, Jerry, Brian is asking, what is the name of DC's channel? So, Jerry, if you could actually put it in the chat, I see you're here still. So, if you could actually put it in the comments, in the chats on YouTube, so then Brian can actually grab it. Be a lot easier for you to do it than it probably would be for me, unless you're sunbathing. Then maybe Aaron can do it or something. Okay. All right. So John, Together Strong. And by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but John is the one that created the song that you saw in the beginning of the show. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've actually seen John on Grandma's
He's been around.
channel too.
He's
actually,
around a
so
lot of places,
yeah.
and he has a lot of talent. So, DC, it's horrific what you've went through. Through everything you endured, what was the positives that you pulled out of it? That's a pretty deep question.
Well, I mean, that's probably a 2-hour show, but yeah, a lot of the positives is that you learn what's really important in life. So there's a reason I don't get involved in stupid like petty arguments and things like that. It's stupid stuff that vegans come up with and stuff like. I just let them be. I don't care what they think or do, sort of thing. There's that. Things can be replaced. When it comes to I lost everything I had built up in Japan, my whole life there basically. But it's just stuff, like things like that. You can always rebuild. You can always, and sometimes you might find that the life that you lost before, it can be opening the door to something better, to something greater. And I've learned a lot since then. I've learned a lot about physiology and the way my body reacts to different things, different stimulus and things like that. So there's a number of positives that have come out of it. And I've learned to trust myself more as well, rather than giving my health to these so-called experts, for example, rather than trusting them over my own judgment. So I've learned that I can do these things myself as well and be more responsible about my health. So yeah, there's a number of positives actually. So, and like I said, I could probably talk for hours just about that. So, so great question.
Yeah, and I didn't mention this before, but you were talking about like being in the hospital and like being unable to like pretty much like unable to move and stuff like that. And I didn't have that problem for years like you did, but for about 3-4 months I was actually paralyzed where I couldn't move. So there's a
Yeah.
little bit of a relationship there, so I can kind of relate. And you kind of feel like you feel hopeless. And the only lucky thing you had is you did have your wife. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's, like my family, my sister and my family visited me maybe once during those 3 months. I'm sure your wife was there every day, you
Yeah.
know, and but yeah, I mean, the things you
Yeah,
went
I was,
through.
I was very lucky actually to have my wife. She made everything much easier, much better for me, and yeah, it could have been a lot worse without her. So yeah, I was very lucky actually to have her.
I mean,
So
do you think, and you don't have to answer this, but do you think in retrospect that it actually brought you two together more because of the situation?
yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a number of. I think this comes down to who you are, but um, because I've seen a lot of relationships break up because of when people spend too much time together, they get sick of each other and they separate. And this happens a lot to cancer patients. Their partner will leave them because they can't handle the reality of um, taking care of someone, or you know seeing them that sick, or just spending that much time together. But for me and my wife, like we spent pretty much 24 hours a day together for so many years. Um, it really just brought us closer together because there's not many people that have. I mean, the only other person that can really relate to what I have been through is my wife, and vice versa. Like we are the only two people that can relate to the situation that we were in. So this was a kind of an ongoing thing. When I was first diagnosed, people kept telling me, "Well, you should talk to someone about it. You should talk to someone." Like they, we did, we did talk to people. We talked to ourselves. We talked to each other. Like myself, and my wife. We managed these things ourselves. We talked to each other about it. We made the plans for ourselves. So yeah, it was very helpful to have my wife, and it did certainly bring us closer together.
All right. So before I ask the next few questions, I just want to let you know it's almost 2 hours, about 3 minutes in. But I want to make sure that are you okay for us to answer the other questions, or
Yeah, sure.
oh, cool. Okay. I
Yeah, I
just want to
mean
make.
Sunday morning is all
I mean,
good.
yeah. I just want to respect your time and everything. So, and I do appreciate you coming. I mean, I'm sure you don't normally get up this early in the morning, unless you do. I don't know.
No, I'm usually
Um,
up this time.
so we were talking about the breathing before and everything like that, and you already did a demonstration, but Gemma's asking about for showing it for anxiety and how best to breathe for anxiety. She says for her friend, Caps, need my glasses. Yeah, Gemma, put on your glasses, okay?
Yeah.
I could care less about the caps, Gemma.
Yeah. Whenever you have anxiety, it's the slower that you breathe, the less anxiety you're going to have. So it really doesn't come down to like any specific technique. Just breathing slowly in general is going to help. But um, the way we breathe, though, this is actually quite important. Most people think that we breathe in through into the lungs, and we don't. We actually use the diaphragm. So think a bit lower. So when you breathe in through your nose, just put your just let's see if I can expand this camera a bit. If you put your hand, say, just here, below your chest, so your chest is up here, put your hand here. When you breathe in, expand here. So it's just above your belly, okay? That's your diaphragm, all right?
Right.
So it should expand 360 degrees. So it doesn't go, you don't raise your chest doesn't raise at all, right? You just expand all the way around. So it should expand all the way around. And that's the diaphragm. That sits underneath the lungs, okay? And that kind of works like a vacuum cleaner where the engine sucks the air into the bag. Okay, the engine's behind the bag and it sucks it into the container. All right. So you expand the diaphragm and you breathe into the diaphragm and then just relax the air out and just slowly breathing out through the nose. And that's all you really need to do. It's a very simple process. Okay, just breathing in very slowly, pause at the top, and then relax the air out. It's a very relaxing thing to do. If you try and aim for five breaths per minute, which is just 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, it's a very relaxing, very calming. It's this is what they call cardiac coherent breathing. Okay, so cardiac coherent breathing is just a very simple process. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. Make sure you breathe into the diaphragm, not the chest. Okay. For more specific breathing techniques, I do have some up on my channel. I will be putting more up very soon. So stay tuned for that. And yeah. And of course, I'm always available for questions if you want to know anything more about breathwork and cold therapy and so on. I also have anyone who's interested in the science behind it. I write about this stuff on my Substack as well, so you're welcome to go check that out.
And Lainey's saying that she could have used you today, but because she had some anxiety at the meetup. So sorry to hear that, Lainey.
Okay.
Hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean this is one of the first things that, you ever see on TV. They get people to breathe into a paper bag, they start getting anxious, they get an anxiety attack. It all comes down to breathing. Even though they're breathing into a paper bag, that's not such a good idea. But just slow your breathing down. Anytime you feel anxious about anything, slow your breathing down, and that will restore your calm. Okay.
Makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. All right. So this is a question asked, but we sort of already, at least I believe we have. Just want to make sure. But Yellow Rose is saying, question Wim Hof breathing method. That's pretty much what we've been doing, right? That's Wim Hof, right? Or no? Is that a different form?
No. Wim Hof is different. Wim Hof method is tumor breathing,
Okay.
and with combined with prolonged breath holds. Okay. So like tumor breathing, it's quite good. This is what monks do in like Tibet and like in the Himalayas and stuff like that, because this warms your body so much that you can actually, this is why they do things like walking through snow and sitting outside in the snowstorms and things like that without freezing, because you can actually heat your body up internally. Tumor breathing, the perfect technique would be to always breathing in through the nose. You can relax the air out through the mouth, but you breathe into the belly first, then you fill up the diaphragm, then the chest. So you do it's like a wave. So you go, it's kind of like you breathe. So like as a wave comes in like that, you're sort of doing that with the stomach first, the diaphragm, and then the chest, and then you relax it out from the chest down to the diaphragm, down to the belly. So it goes in and then out, and then it's a prolonged breath hold afterwards. So you can start, like the Wim Hof method starts at 30 seconds for a breath hold, and then you can, depending on how more advanced you are, you can go 3, 4, 5 minutes afterwards. So so it's a little bit involved, but to do it properly, tumor breathing is very effective. But there are a number of cultures around the world that have different techniques, and like a lot of them use the belly, like yogic breathing for yoga, like from India, for the Shaolin monks, the Japanese samurai. They always start with the basement, with the lower part of the belly, to breathe in first, and then it climbs up to the diaphragm and then to the top of the chest. Now, for the Japanese samurai, for example, they believe the belly to be the emotional, spiritual, and physical center of being. So they use the lower belly breathing, and very, very, very slow, controlled breathing. Some of it is like 1 minute, 1 breath per minute. Okay, which can be quite difficult especially for beginners. Like one breath per minute to breathe in. And they used to test themselves, like for a warrior to be ready to go into battle, they have to be able to breathe. They would put a feather underneath their nostrils, and if that feather moved at all while they were breathing, then they were not ready for battle. So it has to be an incredibly slow inhale and exhale. And this is even just slow breathing like this. I think my camera stopped there. There we are. Hang on, I'll just swap my camera. There we go. Camera. Okay, back. So incredibly slow breathing like that will also build CO2 tolerance. Okay, so there was through a lot of these techniques, like a lot of these techniques are thousands, sometimes some of them more than tens of thousands of years old. Okay, so even tribal, the like Siberian tribes who used to do these sweat lodge sort of things that that involved very strong sort of tumo breathing techniques that would sort of take them into a different trance and give them alternate states of consciousness and things like that. So there's many reasons why you use breath work. Okay, I think we've got another question there.
Oh yeah, of course. I've got quite a few questions actually.
Okay.
So Feral Grandma is asking you, is a dry sauna okay? The small pop open ones I can afford from Amazon are all the dry ones. So I guess, like, is a dry sauna fine to have?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Like I said, saunas can be very useful, very good for you. Steam saunas would be great. Would be great if you can get it for help you to easier to breathe. But dry saunas are good too. You can still sweat out a lot of deuterium and things like that. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So Gemma's asking, DC, did you ever think of teaching in a college? You're so interesting and informative.
Thanks, Gemma. I appreciate that. Well, I did. I used to in Japan. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day.
And Terry Sue said
We'll
that
see.
you'd be really good in a TED Talk person. So,
oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I actually
Maybe when
remember seeing Dr. Kiltz on a TED Talk. That was kind of freaky. Yes, I already know who he was when I saw it. I was like, oh, Dr. Kiltz is on a TED Talk.
Yeah.
All right. So
that was a good talk. I saw that. Yeah.
Did you? So Terry Sue is mentioning earlier DC talked about humming. and it is very
Yep.
helpful too, but you feel weird while doing it. One of my sons used to hum automatically when he was little. I wonder if that was instinctual. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, humming is, I mean, it's something that humans have always done. You know, we've always made music, we've always sung, and we've always made, tuned in our heads, and we sort of hum along to things. So yeah, I think it's very instinctual sort of thing. Um, but it's a very healthy thing too. Like I said before, it helps your body. It stimulates your glands to produce more nitric oxide. So yeah, it could be right.
You know, it's funny too. We were talking about breathing through the diaphragm. I remember when I was in school, that was always what we were told, to breathe through the diaphragm when we played our instruments and stuff like that. So, um,
Yeah, especially if you're a musician or a singer or anything like that, it
yeah,
helps to, breathing
yeah,
techniques to help you
because you
sing
get
in song.
more of a, yeah, especially
Yeah.
like, like if you want to get like a really good note out and stuff like that. Um, I mean, I
It's
think it's more on the
because of
on the
that too,
vocal
that
cords.
it's especially important for you to keep a good posture. This is where posture
Mhm.
is also important. So sitting up straight, because if you are slouched, for example, if you're slouched like that, you can't open up your diaphragm because you're actually squeezing between your chest and your stomach and so on. You're putting too much pressure on your diaphragm. Okay, so that means you can't actually expand the diaphragm to breathe properly. So that's why posture is important as well. So there's a number of things that, everything is connected, you know. And like I said before, there's many cogs in the clock. So having a good posture will actually help you to breathe properly. You know.
So I'm not sure what this question means, but I put it out. So Brian's asking, question, Thomas. So are you asking if I exist? Or are you asking, like, what are you exactly asking? It's kind of a wide open question there. And the last question from Jerry. I'm sorry, not Terry. So from Jerry is, DC, please, what are the 8 health hacks you can share with us? So
Okay.
just to go quickly over each one.
All right.
You know, you don't have to go
Well, I have
through.
a video. Yeah, I have a video on this.
Obviously, the breathing is one of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay. Well, cold therapy, heat therapy. That's two. Breathwork, carnivore diet, grounding, um, light. Um, what are we up to? What's that? Six,
6.
six. Um, yeah. Sleep. Sleep is also very important. So, and habits to help you sleep. So, circadian biology is number 8 as well. So, light, circadian biology, and sleep. And your sleep, I think, starts with starts to have a good, to be able to sleep properly. It starts with what you do first thing in the morning. So getting outside as soon as you can to see the sunlight, grounding, and doing clearing your breathing and so on. Do the breath work and cold therapy. That all starts the hormone production so that you can sleep better at night. Okay, so because you want that, like first thing in the morning, you want that cortisol stimulus to wake you up, because that cortisol is your wake up hormone. Okay, but the sooner you start that and you get on with your day, then your hormone, you sort of resetting your body clock every morning, and you're getting all the gears to work at the right time. All right, from there. And then later in the afternoon, you want to be producing melatonin and things like that. And you don't want to have too much stimulus at night. So like action movies and bright lights and that sort of stuff, and blue screens while you are trying to produce more melatonin so that you can get a deeper, more comfortable sleep. So sleep is very important as well.
And I agree, Janet. Grandma is great, but she is a bad influence on all of us. And Lainey is asking me if I'm up for Japan in 2028. I don't know. If there's something going on and I can afford it, sure, why not?
Yeah.
That's a long ways away. So, but then again, time does fly by faster than we think.
That's true. That's true.
Well, the only time that and I'll mention it again, and I don't know if you felt the same way, but like when you're really, really sick and you're like you can't move and stuff like that, time kind of feels like it's going slower. It's like it's like when is this day going to end? You
Oh,
know,
I
like
know.
because I want to get through it so that I can get so I and it's kind of funny, but yeah, but now
Yeah, that's
time
right.
flies
I mean,
by.
yeah, you're stuck in bed and you're staring at the ceiling all day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
like
much.
1 hour feels like a month, So it's a horrible feeling, but yeah, yeah, it's all relative, isn't it? It when you're having fun, it just disappears.
Yeah, well,
It
that's why they
sucks.
say that, right? Time flies when you're having fun. So yeah,
That's right.
now we know
Mm.
where that comes
Yeah,
from. They
yeah,
just don't fill it
exactly.
up, Like, but it goes like molasses when you're like miserable and sick.
Yeah.
So this was really good, David. And thank you for that. So I'm just going to do my final closing, and if you can just stay on for a couple seconds, couple minutes,
Mhm.
and it's just going to have an ending video. It's like 30 seconds and everything. But so in closing, everybody, live, love, heal. And for goodness sakes, I'm getting so sick and tired of telling you people this. Just like I do, just like DC does, just like many people do, eat the meat. All
Mm.
right. I'll
Yes.
see you guys later.